This week, a state law used by law enforcement to crack down on ghost guns will be challenged at the state's highest court. Ghost guns are lethal, and they can be easily purchased online in parts and sometimes without a serial number.
Tonight, Fox 9 investigator Nathan O'Neill tells us why critics are trying to dismantle the state law that's helping police get ghost guns off the streets.
In Brooklyn Park, ghost guns are becoming weapons of choice for criminals.
They don't have serial numbers, and I think that's the draw.
Police have recovered at least 44 ghost guns since 2022, each one connected to a crime.
Most of the crimes that we see that involve firearms, they're ghost guns. That's what we're seeing. Since 2019, that's really when that started becoming the trend. Now it's predominantly all ghost guns.
Inspector Elliot Faust says that includes a high-profile homicide in 2022, where a ghost gun was tied to the shooting death of 17-year-old Sioka Siko, a standout basketball player.
So I feel like I failed him.
Yeah.
His parents waiting for answers for more than a year.
You think about Sioka, all these good childhood memories of raising him, and then you just start crying. So yeah, it's been really, really rough.
The case is still unsolved.
It turns out that gun was purchased online by an underage youth and was assembled by that youth and was used in a crime.
In Minnesota, the simple possession of a firearm without a serial number is a crime under state law.
We're looking for ways to use that statute to try and impact this problem.
A Fox 9 analysis of state court data reveals police in Minnesota are finding more ghost guns than ever during murder investigations, drug operations, and even shoplifting. 170 people were charged just last year. That's 10 times the amount in 2020. Since then, at least 71 people have been convicted, including Herbert Campbell.
I'm done talking, man. Can we just get this over with?
Law enforcement found this loaded AR-15 without a serial number hidden away in Campbell's bathroom wall in 2021, all while investigating a meth trafficking operation in Sherburne County. But now the Minnesota Supreme Court is set to hear a separate case that challenges the validity of the state law. This case stems from a single vehicle crash that led state troopers to discover a Glock 19 9mm pistol, again without a serial number. The district court judge in Anoka County initially threw out the case, calling the state law, quote, exceedingly vague, pointing to discrepancies with federal law.
Under federal law, there's no requirement that a privately made firearm has a serial number.
When the state appealed, the defendant's attorney put it this way.
If my client would have brought the firearm to a gunsmith, the gunsmith would have been charged with a felony because the gunsmith is possessing a privately made firearm without a serial number.
In a statement to the Fox 9 investigators, the Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus adds the state statute would also make, quote, a great number of heirloom firearms also illegal.
But there has to be some sort of specific explanation for Minnesotans, law-abiding Minnesotans, how they follow this statute.
The language is very clear.
Attorney Megan Walsh disagrees.
What about the argument that a firearm owner might not be aware that this was a law in the books? What kind of defense is that?
This statute has been on the books for decades, and gun owners, just like every citizen and person in Minnesota, has an obligation to know what the law is and to comply with it.
She authored a brief for the Attorney General's office defending the state law.
Minnesota has a right to make a policy decision to prohibit firearms without serial numbers because it is a huge public safety issue.
Do you think that state statute should stay in place, stay intact?
I do.
Inspector Faust calling it a valuable tool in the fight against gun violence.
I don't think that having a serial number is going to make criminals stop using guns in crimes, but it does help us investigate it, and it helps there to be a little more accountability over who owns the gun.
Now, the state Supreme Court is set to hear oral arguments on this case this upcoming Wednesday. We'll be there tracking what happens inside the courtroom. For the Fox 9 investigators, I'm Nathan O'Neill.